in a
thinking
place,
for
but this is
everybody, but you got caught
PSA
off guard.
Philly service announcement. I want y'all to see my face first before I finish doing this. Y'all see her?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes,
here,
yes,
and
yes.
I'm back.
And I
Like
appreciate
I
it so
never
much.
left.
Yes, man.
That's
It was
me.
cool. It was
Yeah, it
cool.
was. I was on
But
a journey. I was listen. Y'all know a
are you
long
still
time
alive?
ago.
Are you still alive?
Listen, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Things have happened and
Right.
transpired in my life to try to throw me off of my alignment,
Right.
and it was successful.
Mm.
I'm not even gonna lie, it was successful. But for the most part, the bounce backs over here,
Yes.
the resiliency is just like
That's
it's
a good,
unmatched.
excuse
So
me. That's a
it's
great word.
you know
Resilience.
me mastering me, doing a lot of things
Being
to
a master.
improve myself, my family, my community. You know, sometimes you have to prioritize, and it's okay to prioritize, and it's okay to say, you know, I'm sorry I can't be there.
Yes.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there,
Mhm.
but I'm here now.
And the real one's gonna understand.
The what's understood don't have to be
Exactly.
explained, right? Ain't that how they
Exactly.
say it? What's
That's how they say.
understood
I
don't
could
have
never.
to be
You know
explained?
what? I could never get that saying right. I be trying to say it like you
Yes,
know how
what's
it's supposed to
understood
just
don't have to
flow
be
with your
explained.
folks. You know them folks that you got that major for, and it's like with these. I can't never right now. I just tried to say it. I don't know why it never comes out right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But we can't forget this. This is PSA. Philly service announcement. Takeover Tuesday. Tuesday takeover. Love, support, and grace. Social
real.
activism, resources, and art.
All the
I am the
time.
assist.
All the time.
It's the
your
raw
girl,
cannon, the
Big Cross
queen.
Cannon. I'm here. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes. And
the
that's what
work
we
is
doing
never
out here.
done though.
It's never
The work
done.
is never done. Like it's always room for improvement.
Yes.
It's always room for more people to help and get out and support.
Yes.
It's always
More
room.
connections
like,
to be made, you know.
Yes.
More networking to do, but not just always about dollars and cents, but networking just to get, you know, transfer of ideas. Because ideas are more important than dollars and cents. They got us kind of on the wrong thing, like data. You know what I mean? Like now that I've been doing this research, right, and I'm like pretty far into it, doing the interviews and listening to my little brothers and sisters, man, it's like, yo, mind games are real, yo.
Oh my goodness.
Mind game, they really can make people believe things.
Listen,
they as in the racist power structure, capitalism. Because I explained the other day about there was always some type of prejudice or discrimination based on color. That has always been. People are distinguished in positive or negative ways by their color in different groups' history books if you read it. So it's always been a level of that with color. Colorism has always been a thing. They called it caste in some ways, you know, serfdom in other ways. There's always been a thing of like prejudice and, like I said, discrimination based on shade or color. But racism was something that was created out of capitalism. Like it was a system that was created to feed capitalism. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm looking at these little brothers and sisters and what their answers are and how it's repetitive in certain ways, and it's like, wow, look at how because they not informing you the culture's not informing you to read. So they not reading this anywhere. Because if you talking about somebody that's 16 to 24, and my number is 267-622-1861, if you want to do research, street PAR is participatory action research. So we are looking for young folks, men and women, 16 to 24 years old, but we want those who are in the mix or have proximity to the mix. You know, you'll shoot. Even if you somebody, because when we say shooter, in certain ways, when we talking about gun culture, it's a lot of people in Philadelphia that's just on defense. And they'll tell you that. Like they tell you, like I carry my gun because I just be on defense. Because anything can happen. And I'm running into a lot of young folks like that. They not press and play how the news is telling you they press and play. I'm not saying that that's not happening, but a lot of these young folks that's out here with guns and feel the need to carry a gun, they really on the time like it's all defense. And I'm like, damn, that's something people not hearing about. They not hearing. Now, why are these young folks on defense? That would be the next logical question, I think. You know what I mean? So then we could start digging into it, because everybody is not the videos that you see on social media where it's this exercise going on. Like, this is a real army mission. A lot of this is not that.
Like this is a
It's
combat
not
war
that.
zone
It's
and-
that right. Yeah, that right there is what influences a young person to think like, I have to be on defense.
Yeah.
Or I have to act in that way as my defense. You know what I'm saying? So, because there's not a whole lot of young folks out here that's just bloodthirsty and off in that way, where this is what their everyday norm, day to day, is just like gun, 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 shoot, 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 shoot. That's not a real thing. And the young boy that's like that, it's not a lot of them. And we need to find out, how did somebody that's 16 or 15 or 14 or 13 can be in that mindset when they haven't been on the planet that long?
Exactly.
I like to say, like, they haven't been, but the data, the information, new information being introduced is extremely important. And me doing this research and hearing certain things being answered the same way over and over and over again, it's like, this shit ain't by happenstance, y'all.
Not at all.
It's a lot of factors going in there that's creating mindsets and creating culture in a very manufactured way for it to benefit somebody.
And it's these and it goes back to shows ago, or almost every show we talk about these systems that are in place that are designed to destroy our community. And and one of the ways that they do that is they lead them to false hope.
Right.
They lead them to false hope, because when you sit back and you think about it, a lot of the children, the youth that is out there struggling right now with being in the street and, doing the right thing and making good decisions, they have multiple systems in their lives.
Right.
Like, they have the welfare system, they have the mental health system, they have the criminal justice system. A lot of them have the foster care system. Yes. So you got to think about all of the systems that these children are involved in that are supposed to protect children. That's their purpose, is supposed to protect welfare, so they can be healthy, so they can get nutrients, so they get, the foster care system is supposed to protect kids and keep families together. And
it's like, you not attacking, because people tend, when you say, like, everything is up for correction.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the thing we need to really be mindful about in any society. Everything is up for correction. Just because you've been doing it a long time don't mean you've been doing the right thing. And we fall into that with a lot of things, a lot of these systems.
Change is constant.
Right.
So
what
these
we doing right
systems
now
is going off of how many years of policy? These policies
when y'all
are
hear
so
the word,
old.
When y'all hear the word antiquated, I want y'all to start paying attention. A lot of political, during political time, which it is right now, we're voting next month.
Voting is coming up, and let's look at
and
what's
you'll
happening
hear
right
people
now.
say things about what my sister is talking about, antiquated systems. A lot of y'all don't pay attention to what the word antiquated mean, or archaic systems. What they're saying is this system is old,
outdated.
It's outdated.
It needs
You're still
to be
pumping people through
it,
but it's outdated. It's not adjusting itself to population change. Whether we talking about numbers, whether we talking about ethnicity, race, class, it's these number changes within the system. And if y'all don't adjust to these changes, you're going to be hurting people. Like, people are going to get hurt in some way, some form of fashion. And it's a funny thing, because it's a trickle down thing. Like, when the situation with Bernie Madoff happened, right? People was like, what did he really do? Would he embezzle money? And I'm like, that's the American system. I don't even look at Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff is just the one that got caught. That's how the system is. Capitalism is a money grab. You can make money off of anything. If you can find a way to legalize it or make it so popular that people be like, oh, we can't criminalize that because so many people like it. If you can find a way to do that, and normally to make money, then anything goes. You will be somebody who will be celebrated. Why do you think we watch mob movies? and gangster movies and gang-related movies because they wanted us to, okay, you getting black culture telling people not to follow the gangs, but follow the black people that do the shit that don't follow the mobs. Don't look up to Lucky Luciano. If you gonna be into this criminal shit, follow black criminals. If we even want to even, and then we can even ask that question of what is criminality when you are being oppressed. So that goes into it. But the thing that I want y'all to look at, and when people say it, so y'all can, because a lot of times we won't go look stuff up. We'll hear it over and over and over again and assume that it means something. But when you hear antiquated or you hear archaic, they're talking about something that's outdated. It outlived. Systems can do that.
They can.
No matter how much we believe in them, they can do that. You know what I mean? Whether it's your religion, your political party, you know what I'm saying? Your race, your ethnicity, like things can change in how y'all doing it. And if y'all keep trying to do the same thing over and over again, for our people, that's something that's called, like you said, the false
insanity.
Hope. That's called insanity, but
Doing
we call
same
menocidal behavior.
Yes.
When you involve yourself in things with the idea that it's going to help you get out of whatever struggle or but really it's killing you. So the easiest one to explain what menocidal behavior is always is drug dealing, crack era. It was a lot of us that thought, yo, we just might make it out of the hood off of this, man. I just might be able to change my lifestyle. And you had a very small minority, which the system was set up for it to look like that, the same way they do everything else. They get this small minority of people for all us to look up and strive to be, even though they know that the way the system is set up, majority of us is not going to make it. We're not going to get there. You're not going to be Beyonce. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not going to be LeBron. I'm sorry. It's like, nah. I'm just... But you're not. You're not. You're not. But so... Going back to what my sister was talking about as far as the systems and them being antiquated, I just want y'all to pay attention to those two words that you'll hear during this political, so you'll know what they mean. So if they talking about the public school system, the way the school district is ran, you'll hear people say it's archaic, it's draconian, it's antiquated. You'll hear people say those things. That's what they talking about, because the public school system was built in a response to farming being over. My daughter loves to tell this story because it's like one of those things that blows your mind a little bit, like, yo, school was always a thing. And then you read the history and you find out, nah, public school wasn't always the thing. Somebody came up with the idea because of a change in culture, either whether it was natural or forced. And I tend to think every change in culture in a capitalist society is forced. Mm-hmm. It's if not forced, heavily influenced.
Yes.
By those in power with the money and the resources and all that.
Absolutely.
So public school system was a response to the end of farming and the beginning of an industrialized nation. So we had to find some, because we tried, I think if I got it correct too, I think we tried child work, where children could work, and then they had to come up with the child labor laws because children were dying in these factories working with grown folk. Those movies that y'all be watching and the kids be in the factory and they be little grease balls and they be in there with adults. That shit really was happening.
No, it was real.
That shit really was in the mines and everything. Yes. And they had to come up with a law to say these kids can't be in here. But the reason why I kind of think that was because you coming out of slavery and y'all made those children work in a crazy, ridiculous way. Mm-hmm. And slavery was, the industrial North was a response to the ending of slavery, which was forced. Mm-hmm. Because the North wanted a piece of that bread. Y'all getting too much money down there, getting fat, everybody looking like the colonel from KFC with a white coat on, a big ass gut that symbolized the money you was getting. That's a real thing too, look it up. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we have these systems, and it's funny because it leads my sister, my right hand sister, the queen. She didn't know that the show was going to kind of lean towards the public school system. This young lady was on the show before. Mm-hmm. I love when people smile big and be excited about being on this great show. Mm-hmm. I have to stop downplaying PSA, y'all.
Please don't, because
this is an amazing show.
It's a movement.
This is definitely a movement. It's a culture, it's family, it's community. So we're gonna let this sister introduce herself again.
Yes, my name is Tashi.
Because she's a friend of the show.
Be Holy, healing outward, looking inward. Mm-hmm. And I had asked Jarue if we could talk about specifically the Philadelphia school district system and just what's going on with them, because I am in a fight for my daughter's life with this school district, and where I would think that people are just doing their jobs, not anything extra, just doing their jobs. I'm fighting and had to get a lawyer for people to do their jobs. And my specific issue is with special education and how they're trying to label my daughter according to these tests. But it's like when she takes the test, you know, she might have a bad day. She might have testing anxiety, whatever. But when you're with her through the day-to-day, you know Mackenzie can do these things, you know, but you still are referring back to these tests. And then I was in an IEP meeting, and this is really burning me up. They were talking about intellectual disabilities. And we're having this because she has autism. That's understood, you know, and it comes with some delays. I did not know they were trying to call my daughter mentally retarded.
Well,
I did not know. That's the new pretty word.
There's nothing pretty about that word. First of all, it's nothing pretty about that word. And this is, I'm gonna be honest, this has been a struggle for me personally as well, where we've talked about this before, and advocating for your child, and you know, getting yourself and your family in a position to demand the needs of your child and not to force your child into this box. So the special education system, okay, unfortunately, right, here's the reality. You have to protect your child. And what they do is they put all of these systems in place to force you into those systems in order to keep your child protected from things like being mentally retarded or bad, you know, or delayed, right? So in order for you to get the services that you need, the support that you need for your child has to fall under these certain guidelines, right? So there's the IEPs, and there's the 504, I think it's a mental. I wish I would have known. I would have came prepared with this information, because I've dealt with this. Okay. I've dealt with this. And your child has to fit under one of these categories. One, for the insurance to cover it, right? And two, for the school district to incorporate it into your child's curriculum, like for their school day. So the bad part about it is, what I have learned is that it's the people who are doing the educating that needs to be more educated about the children and their needs. Because what they want to do is, because they don't understand or they can't educate on a level that your child needs them to educate them, they want to push your child away and say they can't participate in a regular school classroom structure without additional supports, because it's going to take the teacher away from being able to teach the rest of the entire class. That's how it goes.
So
that's how it goes.
So one of the things that I always talk about when we talk about special education in public schools is we gotta just look at the numbers. Like, the data does tell you what's going on. Like, racial disparities in these things, it's like, it's undeniable. So what we do is, like, we change what the argument is, or what the debate is, or what the discourse is, instead of just looking at the numbers. Like, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. So it's like, I have this thing when I'm talking to people, like, about black politicians or whoever, you know what I mean? And when it comes to the question of black folk and how you feel like you got to play this game when you in these rooms to get resources for our people. When the numbers say you don't have to play those games. Right. Because you got years and you got numbers to show what's happening. So you don't have to go in there and give a little to get. You don't got to do that. The numbers say, the data says what it is. And that's one of the things that we miss when you come in and say, why are black boys? And we're talking about a young black girl, because they're always next up. You feel what I'm saying? They're always, once we get enough of these boys and that get the lid, get off of that, because we were treating the little girls differently at one time on purpose. We were making the ride a little easier on purpose, because we knew the conflict that was going to create as she matriculated through school and she was moving in a certain way, because this really comes to going outside the school. So now she's the one that's being educated and he's the one that's being thwarted. When we in outside relationships, there's an imbalance there. There's a conflict that comes from that.
Exactly.
That we don't know what's going on because we haven't looked at the numbers. Why are so many young black boys, why is the special education disproportionate with young black boys? Are you telling me that y'all have studied, because y'all, the numbers are fucked up. Like they not, like it's like this. The shit is fucked up. It's like the black boys is in special education at this level and everybody else is. So like, what are you trying to tell me, that this is an inherent thing? That these young black boys can't learn? And now that we've overburnt that and we've done all we needed to do to them, now we're bringing the young black women in. Because it's a reason why they're getting expelled at an extreme level now. It's the reason why that correlates with the amount of black women going to prison. So you got black women getting expelled from school at an alarming rate, and you got black women going to prison at an alarming rate, and you find out that the highest prison population is black women. That's the fastest growing. And then you look at the school and you say, these young black women are being expelled at an alarming rate. And then you take another look and you say, well, damn, why is special education overpopulated with young black boys? And then up next, then somebody let me know if the up next is wrong, because I know for sure about the young black boy in special education. Mm-hmm. But I'm almost certain that my sister is up next. Just about everything that affects me.
Mackenzie's up next. Like
exactly. So
and you know what you do? And you know, and bro, you have a very, very, very good valid point, right? Because this is what they try to do. But what they don't anticipate is that the mother and the father of this young black boy and this young black girl is going to come in there and is going to challenge them, is going to say, you know what? No, this is what I want for my child, right? You can't imagine how many IEP meetings, conference calls, in-face meetings that I have had to participate in, where I have had to tell people and correct people and get bitchy, if you shall say, you know what they say about us black women, angry, right? We're angry because we standing up for our children, right? And then try to tell them, stay out of my household. See, that's another thing that they do, right? Okay, let's start where it's at for real. Okay, let's start where it's at. The despairingly opposite for young black boys
disparity
started with, the father being taken out of the home. Y'all know how I feel about black families, right? That's the first things first. They get the father out of the home. For whatever reason, they send them to prison, jail. They offer mom all these services. You can get them, but the dad can't be in the home. And so now here you have these homes where the children, they're single parent homes. The mother's in the home and the father's outside of the home. And then you have these educators, and unfortunately, the ratio, like. It'd be surprising to me when I see black men in childcare and black men as teachers, and you see them as
heartwarming.
It makes me really feel good, right? Because you see them as coaches and leaders and like role models and doing stuff in the community to help the children out. But these systems, they don't have the roles in these systems that our children are coming up in. And that's where it starts at, right? That's why it's so many black boys, because for real, the school to jail pipeline is real. And the alarming fact is that it starts in pre-K. Pre-K. I'm telling y'all, look it up, read the numbers. It starts
and the checkout is by the 4th grade. So when they started, once they started
by
in
2-3 years old.
By the time a lot of young black men get to the 4th grade, they already like 9 years old. They already kind of like checked out of school. They already kind of checked out of school. So the thing that the piggyback off what was being said is, now we talking about the teachers and we talking about the parents. That's where we at in the equation right now. We talking of the person to person stuff. We already determined that the school district, everybody is saying the school district not doing what the hell they supposed to do. The teachers union and the parents. Right. And they those two groups of people that's going to do this.
That's one thing they agree upon.
They're going to do this. They agree. So we know that the system is faulty. That's what we saying. We sure about that part. So all the people that be like, oh, it's the system. I'm one of those system people. Mm-hmm. So, but we've already acknowledged that the system is faulty. It's coming out with bad results. So now we got to go to the people who are actually on the ground floor and say, what is our accountability here? So the problem with the teachers is most of the teachers don't look like the children that we're talking about need to be served in a loving way. They're not culturally competent. They don't want, I'm going to give y'all something. Look it up. Somebody gave it to me. I'm almost certain that it's true, but look it up because the school district is the one that allows you to know. Do y'all know that it doesn't have to be 25-1? With the number of people that's on the payroll as teachers in the overall school district, it's enough for it to be 18-1. Now look it up, because the school district is the one that but you know what the problem is? You got a whole bunch of people on leave, and that's not coming back to work, and they work in the system, because that's what the union also affords you. That's the part of this argument we don't talk about when we talk about the teachers union. That's a very important part of what you're talking about when you have to defend your child, because the person who is closest to you that's supposed to do for your child is the teacher. Now, I know teachers don't get paid what they supposed to get paid. But now we got to ask the question of, are you know what your role is when you take this job? Because I don't even want to address.
But they throw anybody in those jobs.
Right,
they do.
Like, they don't have to have an education degree or anything like that.
But this is the other thing, because a lot of the young black women and men who want to be teachers, the obstacles to them getting there are that's built into the system too. Look it up.
She has a black teacher. She has a black teacher.
But this is what I'm saying.
The white teachers bully her.
The amount of teachers, black teachers that we could have in the system are being cut off by red tape.
Right. It's that red tape.
And then a lot of the teachers that look like us, they're taking the job by default. That's not what they wanted to do. That's just a career that they can do because they have a degree.
Right.
So their heart is not in teaching. So when you come and you see that familiar face and you wonder why it's not kicking in, because this black woman or black man, and normally it's a black woman, she don't even really necessarily want to be here. This is just a job.
And the job she did want, they wanted to pay her $10,000 less than they wanted to pay the white woman. So she said no, because she still has a family to raise. She still has bills that she has to pay. Right? So it's like, it's unfortunate, right? And it's these systems, and we talk about them all the time. But one thing that I have learned is that a real teacher, a teacher that has teaching in her heart, is going to hear you out, is going to listen to you tell them how to educate your child, right? They're going to hear what your child needs, and they're going to do their best to try to give it to them, despite what they have in order to do it.
So, like I said, she has a black teacher. She's a good teacher, but it's an autistic support classes. She's one black teacher with 3 other white women. And when we're sitting up on the IEP, it's like, I see her battle. I see her battle.
Yeah,
I see
struggles.
how they're trying to throw everything that's not done right with Mackenzie on her. Forget the fact that she just came in as y'all been doing this for years. Nobody helped her. She didn't shadow anybody. Wasn't no teacher there to show her around. She just came in and did what she needed to do, you know. And then, like, when they were saying, even my lawyer was saying, like, according to the numbers on the test, that Mackenzie is mentally retarded. And she's like, hold on. We're not going to say that, because even I don't test, you know, sometimes I have test anxiety.
Right.
So she stood up, but it's like her hands are tied. Yeah. You know, like, even when I'm fighting with them and I know she's fighting with me, I have to remember that she's walking a thin line because her livelihood's on the line. You know, like, it's just, it's crazy, because I'm like, these tests. And then I had to do something for Mackenzie, and it was like, you know, my input on what she can do.
Exactly.
First of all, Black parents, we really have to read this paperwork, because there were questions that didn't make any sense and they had answers, and then there was a box that said estimated. I'm like, well, what does that mean? So I looked, and it was like, you check that box if you're not sure if your kid can do it. So instead of just saying no, say yes and estimate it because it's not sure. So that was one thing. Also, they were asking financial literacy questions. My daughter 8 years old. So I wrote comments on the test, and they told my lawyer that I didn't fill it out correctly. But what happened was they really didn't like my comment.
Exactly.
So
because
I'm like,
they
why
asking her about something they not even teaching.
Why are you asking an 8-year-old about financial literacy? So when she comes in, she's like, well, this test is for ages 5 to 20.
What kind of
5 years old to 20?
What kind of range is that? But you know what that is, though? That just goes to show
the
that
systematic racism.
The systematic racism, and not only that, developmentally, y'all are out here asking these 5, 6, and 7-year-olds to do things that 20-year-olds not even doing.
This is what I told her. I'm gonna actually read you the comment I put on the back of the test. This is why she didn't want to handle it in. Many of the questions on this form do not apply to the lives of African American youth. I found this test to be biased to urban children, as many questions they would have no knowledge of, as their parents don't have knowledge of them. Financial questions, budget questions, etc. The questions about anger and aggression target urban children because even without disabilities, our children come from chaotic environments, so they know aggression and violence. Asking questions that target or discredit children is systematic racism. This test perpetuates the preschool to prison pipeline.
Absolutely.
And you gonna tell me I didn't fill it out, baby? I filled it out perfectly.
Oh, I didn't fall in your line and answer your questions the way you wanted me to. That's what that was.
I'm glad you said preschool. The reason why I'm glad you said, instead of saying school to prison, because when you think school to prison, you might think high school, because you assume the high school kids is the ones that's ready to go and get it. But you saying preschool is allowing people to know that there's a game being played with your children, with black children, with children of African descent, soon as they step into this system.
Yes.
And a lot of the parents went through the system, so they're unaware. And then they got little things that they like what they did with welfare, with the Social Security thing. When you do say that your child, or you get the diagnosis, and it's all of these, like you said, it's like a double-edged sword, because it's like, I do need these resources, excuse me, but at the same time, I'm labeling my child in a way that's going to hinder him or her at 15, 16, 17, 18, even before
for the
that.
rest of their life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. But I'm just saying how early it'll start having an effect. That $700 check and the insurance is not, it's not worth it. But you don't know that coming from where you come from.
You don't.
You think that because you don't got no other answers. You don't got no other resources. Like you said, you don't. It's like being locked up and having an 8th grade education and trying to read law books. Mm-hmm. And Bill Clinton saying, you know what? We gonna make it a year. You came in this joint with an 8th grade education, no money. You not gonna get no appeal lawyer. How are you gonna fight for your freedom when you know something probably happened because you black? Mm-hmm. You hear everybody say like something probably. I'm telling you, it's something happened in your case because you black. I'm telling you, it's something happened in your case. If you could
somewhere you can find something.
But now you go in the law library, it's Latin. You can barely speak English and read English. I'm being dead ass. Like, I hear it. And not saying that you got to speak the King's language perfectly, or is it an issue if you do or if you don't, or if you use slang. But you need to be able to understand things that's going on around you. So you might need to learn a little bit more about the King's language. So when you step in certain rooms, people not using jargon that you don't understand. Exactly. And they're speaking English. Mm-hmm. Like we said about draconian and archaic and antiquated. If you don't know what those things mean, you're going to gloss over them because you tend to not want to acknowledge that you don't know.
Like me with the intellectual disability.
Right. Having that conversation, asking somebody, because the other part about what you saying is, for me, when I said that these two groups are the ones that's interpersonal. One thing, the reason why I don't necessarily let teach, and I know teachers, I know young teachers that's going to grind me up, and I'm cool with having this debate about where we stand, even with this young sister. If she had more parents that she knew was going to have their back, and the parents don't know.
They're scared.
So that's why they not supporting her. They like, sis, you standing in the way of me getting these resources. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't know, so they are going. And it's only, the thing of how they get us is like you said, it's only one. And it might be one teacher that don't give a fuck, look like us. She just don't give a fuck. She burnt. She like, man, I get a job. These ain't my kids. I ain't make them. How y'all gonna make me the responsibility? Right. That's a real thought process amongst black folk. And then you got black folk who want to appease these white women they're around because they like that culture. They feel like it's something about that culture that will make their life different if they had that access that they see these white women getting all day. Probably your Buckeye sister or brother. You know what I mean? But that's what they battling with when they being a Buckeye. This black shit ain't really get me nowhere. Even I did everything y'all asked me to do, and look, I'm still at the bottom of the barrel. Every level I get, I'm at the bottom of that level just because of the color of my skin, and I'm a woman. For those sisters that's teachers, it's not just you black, it's you a woman too. Right. You feel what I'm saying? So these are the things that we have to be mindful of because those teachers need support. I'm not saying the women who run the teachers union, because they're moving in capitalism. They political people. I'm telling you, I promise you.
I was getting ready to say that.
Yeah, they political people. They don't really care, but they gonna create the slogans and the propaganda and all that to get as much as they could get for the teacher. They're not really caring about what the product is. Their whole job, like any other union, is to protect the worker. And even when you're going too far. You really are going. You're becoming the people that you're saying you're protecting the worker against. Yeah, that's what you're becoming.
And I'm glad you spoke on capitalism because let's be honest here. You know, just looking at the transition of the public school, it's almost on its way out, right? Obsolete. The more they privatize the education, the more control the private industry can have over the education system. So these public school systems failing is not. It's by design. It's by design so that they can privatize education. The charter schools is coming up all over the place. The charter schools is coming up all over the place.
For cutting you off, sis. But I'm melting.
First of all, you chocolate, but you ain't going to
listen.
You're not melting, bro.
Is it humid like that?
No, it is humid. It is humid. It is humid.
I'm melting.
It is humid.
People, I'm melting.
It is humid. It definitely is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your forehead a little shiny.
Know,
your whole head a little shiny, actually. Yeah, but yeah, honestly, it's and we got to look at it, and we got to look at what's happening and how it's you know that transition. You know, it started out one here, one there, one there. Now they're just, I'm telling you, by the time when you think about it, all the kids gonna be going to either private or charter schools because
you know where they gonna be going. And now and this shit burns me out. They gonna be going to tablet school soon.
Yeah.
They gonna be going to tablet school soon.
I kind of like tablet school. I ain't gonna hold you. Because I could be more hands-on with my kids. Also, I could travel with them. We could take their tablet. So it's like one thing about virtual school, I got to see how the kids were being treated inside. Absolutely. So I got to see when that white teacher wasn't calling on black kids. You know what I'm saying? I got to see when wasn't no black kid student of the month. I'm in the camera like, you know what I'm saying? So they're already getting called. So I like that just because I could be in the classroom.
And that's a double-edged sword too, because then they get to see in your house.
They
get to violate your privacy. What's happening at home is now opened up. Because these is mandated reporters, right? They can interpret or see anything behind the camera. And we've all seen it when we was plunged into COVID and everybody went home. We saw the stuff that was coming across social media, parents walking around naked in the background. It was all types of stuff happening. Right, so you got to think about it
on screen though.
Listen, kids was getting cussed out. The parents was listen. Like
it was a lot of. I don't know the numbers on it, but it was a lot of both. Because I seen a lot of Jones where moms was checking the teachers.
The teachers was getting checked left and right.
What type of question was that? No, you don't ask this child that question.
Yes,
carry on. Like it was serious shit going on. Like I seen a lot of Jones where moms was like. that wasn't it.
You don't see my baby raising her hand?
Like, exactly.
So, but you know what I say that, and I definitely don't want to lose my point. Like I don't have, not that I don't got sympathy because I understand how the system purposely devalues the career of a teacher on purpose.
Yeah.
This confusion is not by accident, y'all.
It's
I'm telling y'all, I
not.
promise y'all,
It's
none
really
of it is
not.
by accident. The dynamics, the demographics that's involved, when you talk about overpopulation of white women as teachers, when you talk about an overpopulation of young black boys in special ed, when you talk about the overpopulation of black girls being expelled and zero tolerance in the schools, and you know, these things are not by accident. But this is what I feel like we need to meet each other in the middle as black folk. Because at the end of the day, this is another one of those conversations about black folk. Because they not having these conversations about all these institutions based on how other people are being treated. Those are not conversations.
No.
The banking system is not having a conversation about how they treat Jewish folks.
Nope.
The educational system is not having a conversation about how they treat Asian folks. They do get caught in that discrimination and that prejudice because of them being, you know, yellow, if that's what people want to say, the yellow folks. And then I do know some people say they don't like being called Asian. They don't know what that is. Chinese folks be like Asian. I don't know what that is. But I'm talking about folks from Vietnamese, Chinese, Japanese, Korean,
Oriental.
Right. So for even that, John, they be like, what is that? That's not what we do. You know what I'm saying? But
people with culture don't really call anything but their
people
culture.
of different ethnicities, those things happen. Because America is that type of country. But the thing that I'm saying is, one, we need to, as parents, support those teachers who we see standing up.
That's it.
Support them, and get other
there.
parents to support them. Get other, if the sister don't know that this teacher is like that, when you bump into her, be like, yo, she like XYZ with my daughter. How is she with your children? Because she's a good teacher. And then that sister or brother who's going to pick up their child or in that space with you with the teacher might not even take it into consideration. They might just come pick their baby up. They don't know that they need to support this teacher.
Right.
Because they coming from work and whatever, and it's a routine going on here. I come get the baby, we bounce. But they need that love and support. They need it. They need it from the parents. And we need the teachers to do the same thing. Don't jump in line with the teachers union all the time, y'all. Because the reason why I say that is because I feel like I was educated by some of the last revolutionary black teachers, yo. And the reason why I say that is because I had one black male teacher in 5th grade. My speech teacher was a black male teacher. All my teachers from kindergarten to 6th grade was black women, except for my 2nd grade teacher. I think she was Korean. And these women, I read books about after the fact, but this is what my experience let me know with this brother, Jawanza Kunjufu. Anybody that's having issues with how your child is being treated in the school system, this is not new. Our people have been writing about this since the 60s and 70s. Shit, since they found out about the Mohawk Conference and that schools were created in a certain way to get a certain product, which is a mindless consumer and a servant.
Right.
So you're already starting off with failure. So that the extra things they try to put on our children, it was already pre-designed, even if they didn't put the extra things in there for them to have an effect on your child that was negative.
Right.
That's just the curriculum. I'm sorry, because why would you take critical thought out of school? Why would you stop teaching that?
That right.
You feel what I'm saying? But the thing I'm saying is I don't give teachers no outs because of my experience. And I knew a teacher. I always talk about my 4th grade teacher, Miss Ballard, but all of them was great. Both Miss Robinsons, Miss Robertson, Miss Stewart, who had her son in the class. Something else that's important about teachers and professors, when they teach their own baby, will your own baby go there?
Exactly.
Will you allow your child to go to this school? Because that's a telltale sign. Right. I don't care what the teacher try to come up with on me. And Miss Ballard had her son was in our grade. So it was even more important for her to have her son, because this is the grade she taught.
Yes.
So if she teaches that grade and don't want her child in that school, what is that saying?
Right.
And that's stuff that I read about later, because you got to love our kids to teach our kids. That's a real thing. You got to do it. You got to love them to teach them. So these teachers did things like buy clothes, wash the baby up every morning, make sure he was 8, combed his hair. I watched it in 4th grade, young boy named Samuel. I always tell this story. So when people she did this because not only she was an educator, but she was a black woman, and every last one of them babies in there looked like her. So she went above and beyond because she understood it was bigger than how she felt. These were the children that was going to take care of her. These are the children that was going to push her race forward. And all of my teachers in elementary school understood that. I knew it in the way that they taught us. I knew it. I could see it.
Now, on the reverse side of that, I grew up in schools where I had all white teachers. And the only teachers that got on my nerves were the black teachers. A black math teacher used to burn me out, whatever. But I've always had white teachers, and I've always had teachers who genuinely cared. Like, I could tell they genuinely cared. You know, like, I was thought of as gifted, but I just didn't do work. So it was like working me up to my full potential, staying in contact with my mom, like coming up with stuff so they could sign it every day, you know, make sure I did my homework. Like, I always had teachers that care, but they were in a district where they were being paid well also.
Right.
You know, so our teachers definitely need more incentive.
But I don't want to say that there's no white teachers. I don't want to say that, but I don't even care to dig into it. I'm gonna be honest with you, because one of the reasons why you was treated the way you was treated because you was a little girl, and you wasn't as dark as me.
Yeah.
And there's statistics that can show that. Look it up in that school district. Tell me how black children perform in that school district, and you can even go even deeper. And this is shit that I didn't even look up, but I guarantee you, I'll put money on it that I'm right. You can look up that school district that you were in and see how did black children succeed in that school district. And what was the actual number? Because it might have been 500 kids in the school. It's 5 of y'all. And this woman took a liking to you because you was a little pretty little black girl. I'm just being real about how this shit really works. So I'm not saying she didn't care, but
I'm saying all my teachers, though, Jarue, like every grade, first through 12.
And I'm telling you what they be looking at. And I'm telling you what they be. It's like me being a certain height. And me having to have a responsibility of holding the door and making sure everybody come in. We all 10. Why I got that responsibility? Because I'm tall.
And
so you don't associate me with the other little kids. You associate me with being older because I'm tall. Then don't be dark skinned and then she's not culturally competent. I'm a grown man.
Right.
It really goes down like this. I experienced it. And times I had to look back on shit and I didn't know this was, and I peeped and I read it and I was like, damn, that's the shit they was doing to me. And this was my response to it.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? But Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, if you want to get a better understanding of the public school system as it pertains to our babies, read that brother. He's not the only one, but he's one of the best that I've read, because he has a series called Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. I think he wrote it in the 80s. I think it might be in the 70s. And he wrote the title like that on purpose so you can understand how heavy this is. Conspiracy, because I ain't a conspiracy theorist. So he said that on purpose when he put that in the title of the book. Conspiracy to destroy black boys, not black males, not black men, but black boys. So I want you to understand the severity of why the title is like that, and when you read it, you're gonna know it's not hyperbolic. You know, I like to use my vocabulary.
Listen, and I know, because I'm raising a black boy, right? I didn't understand it with my brothers. You know what I'm saying? Right. Coming up with them. But I understand it because I'm raising a black boy. And I feel like I was actually kind of lucky, right? Because I did get myself involved in these systems to help get the support I needed for my son. But it's the system, the program is only going to work as good as the people that's working the program, right? So I was fortunate enough that in my search for support for my son, I was able to get a black man. I demanded nothing but, if y'all had a white woman, no thank you. If you had a white man, no thank you. We want a black man. We want a black male therapist. And these are the type of things that you have to go in and demand. And I feel like because I did that and was able to get that for my son, he really, really developed and grew, flourished, and got the support that he needed, because I knew what was missing and I knew what he needed. And the school will try to create something else. But no, it's really simple, right? You put a black man in a black boy's life, and it's going to be the world of a difference. Yes, it is. That's it. It's simple. Yes, it is. It's that simple.
Yes, it is. And I can speak from experience.
I can speak. Uncle Jarue.
I speak, and I wanted to bring that up because this sister did something that she probably didn't think was a big deal, but it's like when we talk about changing culture. She asked me to support her the next time that they have a meeting. A lot of us feel shame, so we don't ask. A lot of us feel like it's nothing we can do, or they gonna tell my business about my baby and about me and what I don't understand. Don't do that, y'all. Reach out to your elders, reach out to your sisters. Because you know what's crazy? My sister going through it. I'm going through it right now, trying to get a diagnosis for my baby, and she about to be 3 in February, and I'm already seeing where you got people talking about old school versus new school, but I'm looking at old school and new school and seeing more culture involved than it is actual science. But I can't necessarily have that conversation with my daughter's mom because she's learning as we're going. So it looks like I'm being honorary and challenging everything just because of the racial thing.
Make it look that way.
You know I don't care.
Make it look that way.
You know I don't care.
Make it look that way.
Because I had to tell her, I said, listen, this white woman by culture, if nothing else, will try to involve herself too far into your home.
Way too much.
So we got to be mindful of that. And she peeped it. Then it's like, yo, you can't so rely on the science so much. You got to ask, yo, how do people apply this science in different ways? Because you not the end all be all because I know you got this degree. Just because you got this degree and I don't know what you know, I know for sure you're not the end all be all. So when I ask you, well, can you get somebody else to kind of tell me the same information? That's something else my daughter mom started peeping real heavy. Certain things, certain people would say that other people didn't say, but they giving it to you like this is where it's at. It's only in this parameter.
Right.
And then we'll talk to another therapist and she'll bring up something else.
Right.
And then it'd be like, oh, the other therapist didn't say that. And in my head, I'm like, she was speaking so certain.
Right.
Because normally, because we don't know, we go for it. She speaks certain. She has a degree. She starts doing things, showing us stuff on her iPad and all that. Because we don't know, we be like, oh, she got it.
She's official.
Right.
She's official.
Right.
Don't
Because
believe
the
it.
science, but
Don't
then that
believe it.
science, but you, because in that, for me, that reason right there is what changed my trajectory on my career path. Right. Because the science, like I've always been into the science, but the science doesn't always incorporate the human and behavior and the environment, right? So it's like technically, yeah, the brain's supposed to be doing this and this, that, this by the time you this, that, and the third. But you know, if your mother didn't have good nutrition when you were younger, or you growing up in a household with a single parent, or you were traumatized at a certain age, you saw somebody get shot down the street from you,
or your mom or your dad didn't understand post-traumatic stress disorder, so they going at each other's head, and all of that
affects your development.
It's all going into you.
So just pure science doesn't incorporate all of that. And that was one of the reasons that I went from just straight, flat out psychology to social work, clinical social work. You know what I mean? Because I can learn about the brain and how it's supposed to function all day, right? But I know the reality is the world that I'm living in, nobody's brain is developing as it's supposed to be because there's so much trauma that's affecting our development.
Another one of those
nutrition.
Another one of those words to buttress what you're saying is science tends to do things in a vacuum. It's an isolated space for these things to happen. And if you do them enough, you could kind of like measure in the real world how this would happen.
In a controlled
environment. That's happening in a vacuum. You're putting it in this single space where nothing else is going on but what you're doing. And then you're telling people, well, this is the result of this all the time. But then it's like you said, what about finances? What about stress levels? What about pollution? What about food or lack of? What about drugs? So now you got all of these, what do they call them? Variables that can affect your experiment of what's going on. So now you're saying this happens in a vacuum and this is where we know it from. Now we got to say experience. So now if I got Katie, who's 26, and I got Miss Carol, who is 65, and Miss Carol has been doing this for a long time with the science, and she sees the variations in whether we in a big school versus a small apartment, if mom is only involved versus if dad is only involved, if mom and dad is involved, if grandmom is the primary, those create different things. And Miss Carol knows this at 65. You know what I'm saying? So now when you get in a space like myself, and I'm sure you get the old school teachers and the new school teachers, and now you're trying to decipher that battle and get the best teaching because sometimes we get so caught up in that.
Right.
Like, no, it has to work like this because I've been doing it for 30 years. And no, we have new science and, this is the fresh new thought.
That's that change thing. That's that change.
And as a parent, you got to decipher it. You got to say, how much do I take from Miss Carol? And how much do you take from the 26-year-old girl who I said first and I don't remember her name. But I remember Miss Carol.
You gotta remember Miss Carol. It's a reason why you remember Miss Carol, though.
Because I think the 26-year-old girl
you
was
related to Miss Carol better.
But
you related.
In my experience, and this sister, when I first met her, that was one of the things I told her about from the rip. Like, and then she told me about her daughter, and then it's like, all right, this is what happens when you open up to your folks, because I didn't know that about her.
Okay.
I just happened when we were standing on the steps of Ada that day when we first met. I was telling you about my daughter being in the joint and being in the center across the street and all that, and I was telling you what we was trying to find out and you was like, yo, my daughter is going through SYD. This is her situation, and that's how I got help. I asked different questions just based off that conversation. And then when I listened to my sister talking about something I'm very understanding of, which is a young black boy and how they're trying to classify him in a certain way so he could be treated in a certain way, and that's more information because I'll have that. I openly let my sister know, look, this was going on with my daughter. Well, make sure you do this and make sure you do that and check on this. And you smart, make sure you tell them that. This is the conversation you have when you pull your people in, man. I ain't on that. I don't want them to know my baby something might be going like, nah, because that's what we do.
But you know what it is? Exactly. And that's feed your soul, right? If you feeding your soul, you're doing something worthy. You're putting information out there that people can utilize. You're not just running around spreading gossip, talking about what happened on this TV show or what you saw on social media. And feed your soul, because that stuff don't do nothing for you. Right. Having conversations, putting things out there, somebody needs to hear something that you got to say. Say something that feeds your soul, and I guarantee you somebody is going to hear it, and it's going to make a difference in their life. Let's get together and talk about things that matter. Let's open up. We are communal people.
Yes, we are.
By nature.
By nature.
So this is what we do.
The first humanist. When you hear that word, and one of the reasons how we find ourselves in the position that we find ourselves in this small moment of time, that's something else. Like, we've been battling race to a certain extent. We've been battling Europeans. It's documented. I'm not making this up. I'm not a race baiter and all that good shit. People like to say, "Hey, he's a race baiter. He hates white people." I'm indifferent. Black people got.
He loves black people.
Black people got so.
He loves black people. That's it.
Black people got so many issues going on.
He loves black people. We love black people. We love black culture. We love black family. But guess what?
Especially the black babies.
But guess what? The world loves us too.
Yes.
Right. It's not a place in this world that you won't go that is not affected by black culture.
With the statues. With
nowhere on this entire earth can you go anywhere and they not affected by black
culture. Y'all know
culture.
Buddha was black? Do y'all know that? He was a Twa. Buddha was a Twa. But and that information that you have about Buddhism and all that good Eastern
my
stuff.
Girlfriend had a little black Buddha.
And Buddha is
I remember Buddha.
The first dynasty in China was the Shah dynasty. It was black folk. It was little Twas, like little people. The first people were about 3.5, 4 feet tall.
They were in Ireland too.
Yeah,
they were the leprechauns.
That's where I like telling this story too. The reason why I like telling this story is because it tells you the tricks that the mind can play on it when it's just like idle, like they say.
Yeah.
And think about it. Our people didn't have period, in the beginnings, didn't have a lot of structures to keep the mind from wandering into all of these magical, mystical places because they hadn't figured. It's like you can never imagine people actually being scared of fire. But it was a time when people didn't know fire existed. And as they learned, when they seen it for the first time, they created all of these magical things. Like they thought fire was coming out of people's arms. But the leprechaun was this. The Twa traveled all over the world. They were the first people. They had the first information. One of the information that they had that was masterful was they could grow vegetation underground. So when they went into Europe, they were actually around white folks as they're first coming out, and they could grow vegetation under the ground. So because they hadn't seen this, reason why their diet is built with wheats and meat and all that stuff, and black people eat the diet and it kills you because it's not actually a diet. That's an environmental diet that Europeans had to adapt because of the environment that they lived in, the climate that they lived in. They just didn't have, and we are equatorial people, so we had a lot of vegetation. 2,000 different types of fruits and vegetables that they took from the continent that we don't even know about. So anyway, they knew how to grow this underground. So when the Europeans would see them, they thought they was magical because they would come out of these holes with vegetation. So when they talking about the pot of gold was food. Because think about it. In a place like Antarctica, Arctic, in the hills of Europe, it's desolate. There's not a lot of food. Survival is an everyday thing in terms of you starving to death. Because if you can't catch the meat that's running around in this frozen terrain, then you got to go to the wheat and barley if you can get it when it's growing and get. So now when you see these people coming out of the ground with shit with colors and all this, you know, magically delicious. Think about it.
The Lucky Charms. The Lucky Charms.
Magically delicious.
And that's why they say you follow the leprechaun to their pot of gold.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep.
So they would follow him and kill him for the vegetation.
Oh my God.
You feel what I'm saying? Because they didn't. It was like, how did they do this? How did they grow? Read about it. I'm not making
these fairy tales that we grew up on.
Leprechauns come from.
Or are they actually fairy tales?
What do fruits look like? It's
Are
a pot of gold.
Fairy tales?
When you put fruit all in a basket, it's all these different colors. That's the rainbow.
Listen, my that's one of my things. Fruit baskets and
Food,
Thanksgiving.
you're
Like,
dying.
my fruit baskets be
Food
off the
is
chain.
gold if
Like,
you're dying.
beautiful, colorful. It's like a pot of gold.
And you got the
Yes.
4-foot cat.
Food is gold.
Probably
Ain't no
made
money.
a coat. I don't know what a green coat is, just some cultural shit for them to throw that on there. You know what I'm saying? But he
Green is a symbol of money.
Yeah, he probably had his shit on, you know, came up like, these niggas wearing this uncured furs, dying from disease, this shit melting on their skin. And you coming up with this shit.
Eating and wearing the same animals.
And they like animals just attacking you, you know, because they didn't know. And then years later, the fighting fucking Irish. Like, come on, man.
You can't make this stuff up.
You can't.
You can't make this stuff up.
Listen,
Oh
y'all.
my
I
God.
said this last
You can't
week,
make
and I'm
this
gonna
stuff
continue to say it
up.
because it goes back to what we saying about education, y'all. Like, read, please, please, please read. Stop. This book is not a book is not a sedative. If one more person tell I be trying to read, but I just fall asleep. That's orientation. Because you don't feel any desire principle when you look at a book because it's been turned off that much.
Yeah.
It's struggle in a book. That's how they make us look. It's struggle. I gotta fight through this and read. I gotta stay woke and making my eyes burn. Yeah, that's what they got you thinking. That's why you fall asleep. That's orientation.
Mm-hmm. Advocate for your kids.
Who got? Oh, brother Kimber, I apologize because you always throw that you family up there.
What about the
rainbow? No, the rainbow is just the fruit.
Yeah,
because the fruit is colorful. So that's the rainbow part. That's what the rainbow is. So when you see the magically delicious and all that, the pot of gold is the thought process of, if I get this, I survive.
Yeah.
Because living out here is hard and food is not plentiful like it is when you come from the equator. So now this person has it. That's a pot of gold. I gotta follow him back so I can survive.
Mm-hmm.
He become prey, I become predator. But they turned that because that was something that they start doing. Because if you watch, when white folks and look it up, just look it up. They killed all the buffalo and brought rats in return. How do you kill a whole species? You can get extreme about shit.
They might need glasses.
I need glasses, y'all. I'm squinting. Yeah, I'm squinting to see your question. I did need it, but brother,
Listen.
I wanted to make sure I said that because every week I be seeing that Uhuru family, Freedom Family,
I saw that
up
too.
on there. You know what I mean? My brother
That's
definitely support the book club every Saturday at 10. You think I ain't know? You be sending them to me. You think I didn't know? Every Saturday at 10. It's on Facebook, and he be sending them to me on Instagram, but you can go on Facebook. I think it's Facebook Live, and they got the book club, and it talks about something we need to get into as well, because the education system is important in this too. We need to understand more about international politics as it pertains to black people, because you'll see a lot of patterns that's very similar. like what we see with gun violence over here, and everybody is scared of black boys from the ages of say 13 to 18, even other black boys. That's something y'all didn't know.
Yeah.
Y'all think they all run it, they scared too. But you'll start seeing in other societies, like in London and South Africa, the black boys of those ages are looked at the same way.
That's the global system.
Right,
Yes.
of capitalism, because it has taken over.
So have you heard of this? I heard that the Vatican is the one that puts together what they teach in these schools.
I don't know for sure. I'm going to definitely check, but I know they will play a part because you have certain power brokers that sit on these international boards.
When my eyes started to strain, I was reading less, then I got some glasses.
You might be right, man.
He's saying that the people you tell them to read, they need glasses if they falling asleep.
I think he's taking a shot at me too.
No, but you said that though. You said that people
when they
talk
get
about
the
they
book,
read and they fall asleep. He's saying
that
they might need glasses.
And that's crazy because then that goes to our nutrition. Because how is people's eyes just going? when at one time we mapped out the stars without a telescope.
Yeah, listen,
that's some real shit.
The food.
My eyes
We did it. We did it. Your people did it. They stood on the Mount Kilimanjaro. They stood up there and mapped out the stars, yo. Check it out.
My eyes is done.
I can't wait for somebody to come in the joint and be like, everything he be saying, that shit. I hate him. Because
advocate for your kids, though.
Advocate
in the
for
school
your kids.
system.
Yeah, we got them.
Tell them how to educate your kids. Don't let them tell you how to educate your kids.
So before you go, because we can come back and talk about school. I want you to come back. We're going to have a couple sisters that came on who have children who are autistic. We need to talk about that again as a whole thing. We need Baba to come back and talk about the junior high school thing and why when he has documented from their information, the school district information, how our system that was already miseducating us plummeted when junior high school was eliminated. Like he has it from the time that they eliminated junior high school to right now in their information. Because the school district can tell you everything you need to know about your children.
It's
good,
public.
bad, and indifference.
It's public
Just read it, look it up. And he spent the time that we were in the pandemic 2 years. Mama Gail's husband.
Mama Gail.
What is Baba? Horace. I'm definitely want to get the brother back on the show so he can put that information back out there for y'all so y'all can look at it. And even if you don't go by his theory and strategy, at least look where he got his information from because that was masterful. He spent that time researching the school district to see what is the problem. And he came up with a solution based off of some good information that makes 100% sense to me. So before we go, I appreciate you, brother. Before we go, tell us what's for your experience that you having right now, what is the thing that you want the parent to do or know or a combination of both? What should they be doing?
One, like you said, educate yourself. When you don't understand words that these people are saying, ask them what they mean. Don't let them just talk over your head. Don't be intimidated because you're in a room with mostly white people because that's mostly what it is. Also ask for help. Like when we talk, getting help, like I want you to come because you're knowledgeable, but I also want you to come because you're a black man. When I go to home and school meetings, there are no black men in there, so representation matters. Also, like you said, Ms. Nick, tell them what you want for your kids. You know your kids. You don't even know what these people's qualifications are. So make sure that you advocate and you know your child and you always fight for your kid no matter what these numbers say, no matter what these people saying. Like, and it gets hard. It's tired. I was crying to Carly this morning. Like, it's hard. It's hard. But you have to stay firm and understand that you are your child's first source.
And all the relationships don't match. All them interactions. Some teachers ain't a good fit for your child.
Right.
So
demand that they be moved.
This is PSA, Philly Service Announcement, Takeover Tuesday Takeover, Omni Assist. This is Nick, the
Raw
Queen.
Cannon, y'all.
Raw Cannon. She was back.
Back in the bag and ready to go. Like I never left. Like I never left. I've been going for a minute now. I'm back with the jump off. Grooves in the club in case something pop off. All right, yo, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop.
And wait, one more thing, because y'all say we don't, the teachers. To Aaliyah Royer, my daughter's teacher, who is fighting for Mackenzie, going against all odds in there and standing up for her. Thank you, Aaliyah. I really appreciate it. And I got your back. Okay,
I'm gonna make sure you get this.
We got your back.
Yes, we got your back. Thank you.
I'll be up there.
All right, y'all.